Let's cross now to our East Africa correspondent, Sarah Kimani, who joins me via Skype in Nairobi. Sarah, let's talk about the police report first. What exactly has been found? Has there been widespread abuse by members of the police force?
Yes, indeed. The report talks about widespread torture. It talks about arbitrary arrest, use of force, especially in low-income areas. But what has stood out in both this report, the report by the Human Rights Watch, and the report by the Independent Police Oversight Authority, which is actually a government arm, is that there are people who have lost their lives during this period when the police are trying to enforce whether it is the curfew or whether it is the wearing of the masks. The Independent Police Oversight Authority spoke about 15 people, and this report released today talks about at least 10 people who have allegedly been killed by the police when it is enforcing the measures that have been put in place to contain the spread of COVID-19 in Kenya.
Now, I asked this question, Sarah, and inverted commas on the air quotes, by using the term provocation. So how random were these attacks by police? I read a report 3 days ago saying that police attacked 3 motorcyclists. So is it in situations where police think that they're affecting law and order, or is it simply exacting their might on citizens during COVID-19?
It could be a case of both, because what some of the people that have been interviewed in the reports and those we have spoken to in the previous stories that we have done about police brutality during this time in the country have said is that in some cases, if somebody is found without a mask, the police have gone ahead to either ask for a bribe, some form of extortion, and those who have refused to give those bribes have actually ended up being, tortured or being arrested and taken round in circles the whole day, only to be released in the evening without any charges being preferred against them. Just 2 days ago, in a place called Nandi County, we had a case where a disabled person, a cobbler, was actually shot dead by the police officer because allegedly he was not wearing a mask. And this led to demonstrations in that county. We have seen in areas like Mathare and Kibera, some of the informal settlements, people actually losing their lives if they are found to be outside past curfew hours. So it is a case of maybe police are sometimes using too much force or being over enthusiastic in enforcing these laws.
Let's just talk about heavy-handedness in general, and I'm also talking systemic in the sense that there have been various protests held in Kenya of people speaking out about how COVID-19 has displayed, like here at home, the great inequalities for people.
Yes, indeed. Well, they spoke about in areas where a lot of people cannot afford internet or they cannot afford connectivity. Their children are not in school right now like any other child in Kenya. However, these ones are also now double disadvantaged because without access to internet or access to gadgets like a computer or a phone, they're completely left out of the lessons that are ongoing, whether in the public schools or in the private schools. Also, they talk about other amenities or other basic needs like water, which is needed right now in terms of one of the main preventative measures being washing your hands regularly with running water. They say in most of the low-income areas, there is either no running water or the cost of water has actually gone up. For example, in Kibera, they say a jerrycan of 20 liters of water was between 3 shillings and 5 shillings. It has now shot up to about 30 shillings. That is, many of them cannot afford, considering they have also lost jobs. These are the same people also who have been affected by job losses, those in the informal settlements, because when the government restricted movement and said that people must stay indoors, a lot of the big companies shut down their operations. And so they have lost their jobs and their livelihoods.
All right, just a final word, Sarah. Let's talk about the current cases, the active cases in Kenya. What is the situation with regards to COVID-19?
Well, the country today now says it has just over 6,359 confirmed positive cases of COVID-19, and the ages of those who are infected are between the ages of 4 to as high as 75. Nairobi still has the highest number of cases, followed by the coastal town of Mombasa, and then the other counties follow. As yet now, almost all the counties, out of the 47 counties in the country, almost all of them now have a case. And this, of course, is affecting businesses and the reopening as the government plans to reopen. For example, just yesterday, the tourism minister saying that the country has lost $800 million in terms of tourism revenue that would have been in the country by this time. Tomorrow, looking ahead a bit on the same, tomorrow we expect that the Minister of Education will give directions on what happens in terms of reopening of schools. With everybody go back to school, or is it going to be phased out? We understand that the technical colleges and the universities might be the first ones to reopen, and then the secondary schools for pupils and students who must do their examinations, national examinations, and then the rest will follow later.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Sarah Kimani, East Africa correspondent, speaking to us via Skype in Nairobi.